Tonight's meal, tilapia surprise with boiled cabbage. Begin cooking steps 1 through 50 now.
Are you kidding me? Making dinner shouldn't feel like doing a 1,000-piece puzzle. With Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals, the hard part's already done. Pre-chopped ingredients, zero stress. Just assemble, bake, and enjoy. No complicated steps, no mountain of dishes. Try Assemble and Bake today. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Today's presenting sponsor of Gambling Mad with Norm and Chad is brought to you by 24K Wellness. Not all nutritional supplements are the same. 24K Wellness makes it their mission to help you feel, perform, and live at your best naturally and sustainably. 24K Wellness delivers nutritional supplements based on more than 5 decades of experience. Premium gold standard natural ingredients with advanced formulations and rigorous quality assurance testing to create products that support energy, recovery, vitality, long-term health, and cognition for focus through stress, late nights, and questionable decisions. No promises on your picks. And right now, special for Gambling Mad listeners only, go to 24kwellness.com and use the code MAD24K for the absolute lowest prices anywhere. Once again, that's 24kwellness.com and use the code MAD24K. 24K Wellness, fuel better, live better. Tell them Norm sent you.
The one-time Saturday Night Live cast member says he can't get work in movies because Hollywood blacklists conservatives. He calls it a rot in the soul of Hollywood. Okay, first of all, and this goes without saying, Hollywood has no soul. Second of all, and this should go without saying, Rob Schneider is not being denied work because of his political views. He is being denied work because of his work. Norman Chad. Norman Chad. Welcome to Gambling Mad with Norman Chad. I am Norman Chad. Coming up on the program today, LeBron is probably the GOAT. Whole milk is undoubtedly the GOAT. And Rob Schneider is definitely not the GOAT. Gambling Mad, as always, brought to you by Fritos, picked fresh off of Central California trees each morning, delivered directly to your local retailer each afternoon. And by the refreshing taste of Fresca. Fritos and Fresca. It's a meal. This is going to be a rough and tumble year. Heck, later on the show, I have to roll up my sleeves and blast my own homeland. But let's at least start 2026 on a positive note. LeBron James just turned 41 years old. Half a lifetime ago, I was a LeBron hater. I wasn't fond of all the hype. Early in his NBA career, it seemed he missed a lot of foul shots late in the fourth quarter of close games, and it seemed like he was always passing the ball off just before the buzzer to let someone else take the big shot. Then a couple of things changed. He started making those free throws, and idiots such as myself also noticed that when he did pass the ball off at the end of the game, he was actually making what he called the correct basketball play. Because indeed, sometimes he would be double teamed or closely guarded, and he would find an open teammate who he trusted to take the big shot. And then the years went by, many years, and it's just hard not to appreciate LeBron's overall offensive game. So, you can hate on LeBron for a lot of things. He always makes it about himself. Remember the decision to tell us where he was taking his talents to South Beach, and his inconsistent stances on various social issues and such. Sometimes I wish he would just shut up and dribble. I can't believe I just said that. Can we take that out? I feel kind of bad. You got to give him credit, though, for how he has conducted himself off court. LeBron's been in the public eye since he was a teenager without so much as a hair out of place. No criminal activity, no untoward acts while out and about, no baby mamas scattered across the country. All that is really hard to do with so much money and so much attention on you. And of course, it's really hard to hate on the quality of his play over such a lengthy period of time, 23 years and counting. If he's not the greatest to ever play, he's certainly on the short list. Let's just look at some of his remarkable stats. Number 1 all-time NBA scorer. Number 2 all-time in assists. He has scored at least 10 points. He scored at least 10 points in every game for almost 19 seasons. He's the only player to score 40 points as a teenager and as a 40-year-old. He has scored at least 40 points against every NBA team, and he was in the top 2 in MVP voting in 3 different decades. And now here are my favorite 3 stats in terms of sustained excellence and longevity. He has more playoff wins than 21 NBA franchises. He's played in 12.8% of all NBA Finals series in history, and LeBron has played against 35% of all NBA players in history. By the way, this is a little off topic, but coincidentally, the Kardashians have dated 35% of all NBA players ever. And that's actually a bit more impressive than LeBron. I mean, they are on the road all the time. There's virtually no home games there.
Maybe you like cooking. Maybe you don't. Either way, the new Blue Apron is for you. Because along with our classic meal kits, we're offering new pre-made and one-pan meals to help you get dinner on the table fast. And now there's no subscription needed, so you can just order and enjoy. Do delicious food your way. Shop 100+ meals at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
We turn from the amazement of LeBron James to the annoyance of Rob Schneider. The one-time Saturday Night Live cast member says he can't get work in movies because Hollywood blacklists conservatives. He calls it a rot in the soul of Hollywood. Okay, first of all, and this goes without saying, Hollywood has no soul. Second of all, and this should go without saying, Rob Schneider is not being denied work because of his political views. He is being denied work because of his work. Have you seen Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo? Or its sequel, Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo? The first Deuce Bigalow got a 23% Rotten Tomatoes rating. A little generous. The second Deuce Bigalow got a 9% Rotten Tomatoes rating. A little generous. At the 26th Annual Raspberry Awards, it was nominated for Worst Picture, and Schneider won for Worst Actor. The Deuce Bigalow movies, both dumb, both tired, are the pinnacle of Rob Schneider's film work over the past quarter century. I'd also like to remind Rob that he wasn't getting any work before he broke the old adage that it is better to keep silent and be thought the fool than to speak and remove all doubts. Anyway, Rob Schneider's grumbling reminded me of a situation last century involving one of my favorite basketball players ever, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem, as some of you might recall, dabbled in acting, including his most famous role as the co-pilot in the 1980 comedy classic Airplane. Kareem subsequently complained that he wasn't getting enough acting work because he had been typecast. Okay, big fella. I'm not sure how many leading man roles are available for, 7-foot, 2-inch thespians with a skyhook. I just couldn't see Kareem playing Othello, Hamlet, or Macbeth. I can't see him replacing Tom Hanks in Sleepless in Seattle. And let's be honest here, and Rob Schneider will probably back me up on this, Hollywood is not exactly casting a wide net for black Muslims. Just saying. Not so long ago, we told you that the Trump White House had banned travel into the United States among those from 19 nations, mostly the quote-unquote shithole nations of the world, so it made sense. Well, now the Trump administration has expanded the ban to 39 countries. Man, it's as if these shithole nations are growing on trees. That means fully 20% of the nations on planet Earth are not welcome in these United States of America. You are, say, from Senegal, just got married, want a honeymoon at the Niagara Falls. Don't even think about it. you are from Laos and want to take the kids during the summer to Disney World, don't even think about it. And the fact is, it is getting tougher and tougher to protect ourselves from the rest of the world. I see only one solution. Let's go over to the big map and take a look. As you know, we have talked for years about the construction of the border wall, Mexico way. There's even a chance now we're going to do a border fence up in Canada if they don't become the 51st state. But that's not enough, because that's just Canada and Mexico. That still allows cruise ships and rowboats to make their way to America via either ocean, either our beloved Pacific, number one rated ocean in the world, or the beleaguered Atlantic. We can't allow that. So what we must do, as expensive as it might seem, is build a border wall / fence around the entire United States. Okay? That's 12,383 miles. That's a lot of steel bollards, a lot of steel piping. My recommendation, Home Depot. Buy in bulk. It won't be that bad. We do this. We keep people out of Phoenix. You get too many people in Phoenix, it's going to be way too hot. It's 111 degrees right now. Traffic and weather all weekend on the fives. Now let's go back to the desk. We also cannot sleep on Alaska and Hawaii. They surely will be overrun if not protected. So we need border walls or border fences there as well. And this is trickier because there are 117 Hawaiian islands with all sorts of curves and stuff. Now, I don't want to blow my own horn, but back in the late 1950s, this is why I argued against adding Alaska and Hawaii as the 49th and 50th states, as I testified at the time in front of the Congressional House Subcommittee on adding unnecessary states. And I quote from my testimony, "This will be another part of America that will be difficult to protect. People will be swimming to our shores. Anchorage will become New York City North. Honolulu will become New York City South." I stand by my testimony 68 years later. Back in the days of slavery, and I don't have firsthand experience with this, I've just read about it, we, and when I say we, I mean mostly white males in America, decided that a certain segment of the population would act as our servants because of the color of their skin, that they would have somewhat limited human rights for the entirety of their life. That's just the way it was. It takes a lot of hubris and arrogance and inhumanity to make that judgment sure. But as the late Charlie Kirk pointed out, those black families were less crime-ridden and more stable under that system than they are today. Indeed, I figure you would have a much more stable home if you are never allowed to leave the home. Makes sense. Score one for Charlie. Anyway, though it took a while, we eventually got over the slavery thing. Now, these days, or at least for the past several generations, what I'm about to talk about isn't the same thing, but it comes from the same place. And that's where we, and again, when I say we, I'm referring to essentially white males here in the United States. We decide that other places around the world need to make a change, occasionally what we refer to as a regime change. We say it essentially sometimes for national security reasons, or sometimes it simply involves our business interests. We do it sometimes, frankly, just because we can. As my White House buddy, Stephen Miller, pointed out the other day, we are a superpower and we must act like a superpower. In other words, if you have the most financial power and the most military power, you can pretty much be an asshole whenever you want to be. And sometimes that might involve, bombing people halfway around the world. So we will tell another nation that things really aren't working out for you right now, and we're going to come in and fix it for your benefit. It's called change, or as I mentioned, regime change. That term sounds, it sounds too overbearing. I really don't like it. We're trying to help. We used to do a lot of this change, by the way, covertly, clandestine operations everywhere. But, it never works out however we do it. South Vietnam, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Cuba, Brazil, Haiti, Afghanistan, Nicaragua, Panama. I could actually list a couple of more dozen attempts we've made. I will say this. We used to do it mostly on the DQ. And now, of course, we do it out in the open, which I think is a better system. Transparency is always best. And give credit where credit is due. We picked the absolute best time to bomb and invade Venezuela. We did it at 1 o'clock in the morning. Always easier to capture a dictator while he is sleeping. Pretty solid play call there, Pete Hegseth. I have been warning against the newfangled prediction markets since day one. Actually, since day zero. I have told Gambling Mad viewers repeatedly that Polymarket and Kalshi and the like are fraught with a million problems. If nothing else, they have become thinly disguised sports betting outfits operating in states that ban sports betting. But more importantly, I've emphasized the drawback of risking money on real-life events and the probability that somebody would try to rig those occurrences or the possibility that someone would make wagers based on information they had received. Well, here we go. A newly created Polymarket account last week invested over $30,000 on the exit of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. Less than 24 hours later, the U.S. military invaded Caracas, captured Maduro, and flew him out of the country. The Polymarket trader profited $400,000 from their $30K investment with that transaction. This type of activity, my friends, will happen again and again and again. Insider trading is not only allowed on prediction markets, it's encouraged.
I'm done with subscriptions. Streaming, fitness, razors, vitamins. I've got subscriptions for everything in my life. They lock you in, and half the time, I can't figure out how to unsubscribe. That's why I'm so excited about the new Blue Apron. Now you can get delicious meals delivered with no subscription needed, including new pre-made options. Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Time for NFL picks. Before we get to that, let me ask you, smarty pants people, the following trivia question posed by NFL Films. I love this one. Which current NFL head coach has more regular season rushing yards than Bo Jackson? Good luck. We will give you the answer after we finish our NFL picks. Alas, despite a strong push in December, I finished the regular season under 500. My first losing season against the spread in 5 years, 26, 27, and 2. Per the terms of my contract, I must move out of the United States until I record a winning handicapping record. So next year, I will be doing these picks abroad. Not sure where yet. I believe there are many, many nations that no longer accept American visitors. Hey, what goes around comes around. Let's get to the picks. The regular season is done. Let's move to the postseason. Playoffs begin. Rams at Panthers. Let me be clear here. I am picking a Rams-Chargers Super Bowl. What, because I live in Los Angeles? No. I am not a homer, other than the fact that I stay at home all day long. Heck, I could be living in Poughkeepsie for all I know. The Panthers somehow beat the Rams in Carolina this season, 31-28. But in that game, Matthew Stafford threw 3 interceptions, 3 picks. He only had 8 the entire season. The Panthers, of course, are the only losing team in the playoffs. They were 8-9 and outscored by 69 points. The Rams were 12-5 against the spread and outscored their opponents by 172 points. Stafford threw 46 touchdown passes. Carolina's entire team scored a total of 35 touchdowns. Enough with the numbers, other than the fact that the Rams will win easily, 34-13. I will go with the Rams, giving 10.5 points. Packers at Bears. This is the NFL's oldest rivalry. The Packers lead the all-time series 109-97 with 6 ties. I have seen all but 3 of those games, and I can tell you that this game will be won in the trenches. Turnovers will be important too. I mentioned these teams have tied 6 times in history. This game cannot end in a tie, however, due to the NFL's arcane postseason rules. You know, I am tired of hearing how good Ben Johnson is at game planning. Well, what do you think Matt LaFleur is doing all week? Estate planning? He can game plan too. But of course, this game's going to come down to the quarterbacks. Jordan Love, like Aaron Rodgers before him, owns the Bears. Also, in the event that either QB gets hurt, I like the Packers backup, Malik Willis, more than the Bears backup, Tyson Bagent. Why? I just said the name Tyson Bagent for the first time in my life. However, Malik Willis is listed as questionable this week, so if Green Bay has to go to its 3rd string quarterback, Desmond Ridder, that is a problem. Why? I just said the name Desmond Ridder for the first time in my entire life. This game should be close, unless it's not. I'll go with the Packers as a 1.5-point favorite in Chicago. Bills at Jaguars. Who among us, who among red-blooded Americans doesn't want to see the long-suffering Bills fans get their team to win a Super Bowl? But most signs are pointing to the Jaguars in this one. They have won 8 straight games. James Cook had his 3rd straight 1,000-yard rushing season, leading the NFL with 1,621 yards, and the Bills have had trouble at times stopping the run. And the Jags' defense, from weeks 11 to 17, allowed opponents a stingy 65.2 passer rating. But the Bills' passer is Josh Allen, perennial MVP candidate, and he's the best player on the field. I saw 2 great stats last month. Josh Allen has more rushing yards as a Bill than O.J. Simpson had, but O.J. committed 2 more murders than Josh. You know, I apologize. I wrote that down. I saw it online. I went back to find out who put out that line, and I couldn't locate it. I apologize to the author. Tip of the cap from me on that one. Before we give you the pick, and we're going with Josh Allen, as always, I ask the question, why and how is Jacksonville in the NFL? Let's go with the Bills here as a 1.5-point road favorite. 49ers at Eagles. All the experts, every one of them, lining up with Philadelphia in this one. The Eagles' pass defense is outstanding. The 49ers' pass rush is awful. They were last in the league in quarterback sacks. Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are 5-0 together at home in the playoffs. And Hurts is an amazing 19-1 at the link against teams with a winning record. Plus, we got all those 49er injuries, guys like Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. Injuries, schminjuries, okay? That's why you have reserves. Step up, for crying out loud. And if you're a second-team linebacker, for instance, that still means you're one of the best 150 or 200 linebackers in all the land, maybe on the entire planet Earth. Anyway, just you can throw out all the analytics. I have one word for you. Christian McCaffrey. Okay, that might be 2 words. Okay, I'm not good with numbers. I'm good with this number. I'm taking the 49ers plus 4.5 points. 49ers in an upset. Chargers at Patriots. Yes, I am predicting a Rams-Chargers Super Bowl, which means both of those teams have to win 3 road games to get there. It starts here in Foxborough for the Chargers. You know, yes, I love I love the Drake May story. He's terrific, and he's going to get better. But since 2002, first-time playoff quarterbacks have won only 35% of their games. Plus, the Patriots had the softest schedule in the NFL. I believe they played Tulane twice, and they played James Madison twice. And in this game, New England will be facing two Harbaughs. You heard me right. John Harbaugh is not doing anything after the Ravens fired him earlier this week. You don't think he's going to help his brother Jim? Harbaughs stick together. Now, there is concern about Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert with a fracture in his non-throwing hand. So what? It's his non-throwing hand. I'm working right now with a bruised right buttock, but I'm sitting on my left buttock. I'm going to go with the Chargers here to upset New England. Yes, upset New England as a 3.5-point under.
Here at Blue Apron, we know exactly how hectic school nights can be. That's why we created Assemble and Bake. Delicious one-pan meals that make family dinner simple. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients and put the pan in the oven to bake. Then you're free to help out with that last-minute diorama. Shop Assemble and Bake at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Dog. Texans at Steelers. Yes, the Texans have won 9 in a row, and they have arguably the best defense in the AFC. But I am a lifetime Steelers fan, so I throw logic out the window. I've never even been to Pittsburgh, but I love Pittsburgh. I only started watching this year the Netflix drama The Pit because it's set in a Pittsburgh hospital. I don't understand a word of the ER jargon that they utter, but it's kind of like having a conversation with Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud will look confused the whole game. Why? Because the Steelers' defense will confuse him. You can't argue with that logic. Plus, the Steelers, listen up, the Steelers have won 23 consecutive home games on Monday Night Football. They're playing on Monday night, I think. 23 straight, dating back to 1992. That's almost beyond belief. And actually, I'd better double check the schedule and make sure this one's on Monday night. Either way, whenever they're playing it, I am taking the Steelers plus 3 points. All right, let's answer our NFL trivia question. Which current NFL head coach has more regular season rushing yards than Bo Jackson? Anybody here, staff-wise, have a guess?
Jim Harbaugh.
We have one of our staff members, grew up outdoors, outhouse situation, dropped out of elementary school in 4th grade to help the family actuarial business. And he just yelled out, Jim Harbaugh. That is impressive. Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh is the answer. In his 14-year career, Harbaugh, who was a pretty good scrambling quarterback, had 2,787 rushing yards, 5 more than Bo Jackson. If you got that correct without Googling it, we will send you a letter of commendation. Always good to get mail. That is not a bill. Asher, I'm not sending you anything. You are a Bears fan. Harbaugh was a quarterback for the Bears for quite a while. He's actually their last great quarterback, I believe, or their only great quarterback since Sid somebody. So you're not getting anything from me.
Woo!
All right, a quick public service announcement. The all-new Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, Ivanka Trump, Melania Trump, Tiffany Trump, Barron Trump, Trump family, John F. Kennedy Center, has released its full 2026 performance schedule. Kid Rock will play nightly with matinees on Wednesdays as part of his residency at the venue through 2028. Tickets can be purchased directly from Kid Rock when you see him. Before we wrap up, I'm going to say this one time and one time only. Whole milk is back, baby. Why did anyone ever put the bad rap on whole milk to begin with. What is more wholesome than whole milk? What tasted better than a glass of milk with a cookie when you're growing up? What tastes better than a glass of milk with a cookie when you're all grown up? My goodness, they saddle us with that 2% milk forever, and then 1% milk, and then fat-free milk, and then milk with no milk in it, plant-based, my ass, almond, soy, coconut, rice, oat, no, 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 and no. Dairy is sexy. Why waste a cow's God-given strength? What if Ella Fitzgerald were in your family, you wouldn't let her sing? What if Andre the Giant were in your high school, you wouldn't let him wrestle? I can't believe we have the Second Amendment protecting our right to bear arms, but we don't have a Third Amendment protecting our right to drink whole milk 24/7, 365. If you've got a cow, you've got to let a cow and give you whole milk. Apple cinnamon Cheerios. Ooh, apple cinnamon Cheerios with whole milk. Oh my goodness. Frosted Flakes with whole milk. They're great. And back when I was a kid, I loved having the milk mustache every morning. Actually, I'll have one naturally pretty darn soon. That will do it for another edition of Gambling Mad with Norman Chad. Hope to see you again next time. And remember, if you're going to roll the dice, make sure they're loaded.
Today's presenting sponsor of Gambling Mad with Norman Chad is brought to you by 24K Wellness. Not all nutritional supplements are the same. 24K Wellness makes it their mission to help you feel, perform, and live at your best naturally and sustainably. 24K Wellness delivers nutritional supplements based on more than 5 decades of experience. Premium gold standard natural ingredients with advanced formulations and rigorous quality assurance testing to create products that support energy, recovery, vitality, long-term health, and cognition for focus through stress, late nights, and questionable decisions. No promises on your picks. And right now, special for Gambling Mad listeners only, go to 24kwellness.com and use the code MAD24K for the absolute lowest prices anywhere. Once again, that's 24kwellness.com and use the code MAD24K. 24K Wellness, fuel better, live better. Tell them Norm sent you.
I've never liked watching college football. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. College football has absolutely nothing to do with college, and now more than ever. Worse than the games is all the blowhard bloviating between the games. I'd rather be stuck in an elevator with a wildebeest and a warthog than with Joel Klatt and Paul Feinbaum. You know, we once had a national football champion without a single playoff game. Coaches and sports writers would just vote on it. Someone eventually realized they were leaving a lot of money on the table, so they created the national championship game where a bunch of people again decided who the best 2 teams were. Then they realized they were leaving even more money on the table, so they expanded from 2 teams to 4 teams to 12 teams now, and it will go to 16 teams and beyond one day. You still have a bunch of people deciding who gets in. I think they should let everyone in. Joel Klatt thinks they should let nobody in. The Fox Sports commentator doesn't believe in Cinderella teams, as we get during college basketball's March Madness, arguing that only the very best teams should compete. Really, Joel? So how are we going to figure that out? Klatt screamed that Tulane didn't belong this year, particularly after losing to Ole Miss 41-10. But he didn't scream that Alabama didn't belong and the Tide lost to Indiana 38-3. Hey, sometimes shit happens. Tiny Chaminade once beat the number 1 ranked college basketball team, Virginia. Buster Douglas once beat Mike Tyson. That's why you play the games. Capiche, Joel Klatt? College football is not a beauty contest. You play the games. Let me ask you this, Joel Klatt. What if we had a 12-person announcer tournament to decide who broadcasts the games and someone like me decides the 12 announcers? You wouldn't make the cut, you nonsensical, babbling, rambling, chattering, blithering, prattling, jibber-jabbing piece of baloney rubbish on a stick. You know
Gambling
why?
Mad with Norman
Because
Chad is
you
written by
get
Norman
me
Chad
gambling
and ghostwritten by Norman Chad. Executive producers are John Scheinberg and Rick Barrio-Dill. Produced by Norman Chad and Rick Barrio-Dill. Our associate producers are Bree Coury and Asher Friedberg, and edited by Asher Friedberg with studio facilities at 360 Pod Studios, Beverly Hills.
So here's the thing with homemade meals. Eating them is great, but all the chopping and measuring and cleanup, Not so much. With new one-pan assemble and bake meals from Blue Apron, you get all the flavor of homemade meals with a fraction of the work. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients, bake in the oven, and enjoy. Shop Assemble and Bake at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.